Hello everyone, my name is Fraeya and welcome to my broom closet. Today I'm going to be talking about how to set up your altars in the broom closet and also what to put on them that doesn't look too witchy or give the game away. So I'm going to start with types of altar in this video and then I will move on to things that you can put on them. That's the intro to this video, let's begin. Okay, so the first type of altar I'm going to talk about is permanent altars. These are quite hard to set up and maintain in the broom closet for obvious reasons, at least in the traditional sense. Basically, you just have to be quite creative about the way that you do it. So first you want to think about the location of where you want to put a permanent altar. Basically, find a place in your home, preferably your room, that could do with spicing up with a bit of pretty decor. So this could be anything like a empty windowsill, empty bookcase, empty shelf, just things that need a bit more life breathed into the space. Another option is to have your altar in a drawer. This is really nice because you can just set up everything in a drawer and then you open the drawer when you want to use it, and then as soon as you're done you just put it away, so you don't need to have anything out on display. So that's a nice option if you don't have too nosy of a family and quite a lot of privacy when it comes to your drawers. Another really good option is an altar in a cup. So this is just simply a jar or bowl or cup filled with your altar decor. So this is a really nice thing to do for every Sabbath. And they also make ideal travel altars. I will link some tutorials in the description for you. Another great subtle option is to make your whole room into an altar. So the idea of this would be to put an element symbol in each corner of the room corresponding to the cardinal points, and then you can put your god and goddess symbol in the top two corners of the room. You can do whatever you like with this, just turn your whole room into an altar. This is a really nice way to maintain a magical space of your own. For kitchen witches, a good option is to turn your kitchen into an altar. This is really easy. All you need to do is declutter your kitchen, make sure it's clean, and then you can use herbs or salt to represent the earth element. You can use a cooking pot or a wine glass to represent the water element. You can use a kitchen knife or a wooden spoon to represent air, because they can represent your ritual dagger or your wand respectively. And you can use your oven to represent the fire element. Another even subtler option is to have an astral or imaginary altar. So this is for witches who truly can't have anything physical on display and have very limited budget options, things like that. And it's also a really good way to develop your visualization skills. Next I'll move on to temporary altars. So this is the more obvious option for a broom closet witch because you can just set up your altar, leave something on it like a talisman or an object that represents your goal, and then once you've cast your spell or whatever, you can pack the altar away and then keep that object on you that represents your goal, and that kind of keeps the energy present even after the altar has been packed away. Another great option is shoebox altars. So not only are they small and easy to hide, but you can also conveniently store all your tools inside the shoebox. If you don't have a shoebox, then pretty much anything small A4 sized will do. This can be anything from a large hardback book, a stack of printer paper, a chessboard, an upturned storage box, things like that. Really, they can be made anywhere out of anything. Another great option is mini Altoids tin altars. As well as being super easy to hide because they're so small, they also make very ideal travel altars because you can just fit everything inside and fit it in a bag. And another good type of temporary altar is a nature altar. If you can't practice in the home but you can go outside and find a nature place, this is really a good way to set up a temporary altar. You can just gather some sticks and stones or whatever pleases you, do whatever spell work you have, and then once you're done, all you need to do is take anything away that is non-biodegradable. Just take that with you when you leave. The next type of altar, which is slightly unconventional but nonetheless valid, is a cyber altar. So it's really easy to use your desktop background as an altar. You can change your background picture to a picture of an altar, or if you're on a Windows computer particularly, you can easily change the icons to different things. This is very easy, just right click, go on properties, customize, and then change the icon. There are a lot of different icons available, and I'll show a good example on screen. Another good option, which is easier to hide, is to keep your altar in a Word document or some sort of sandbox game. I've seen quite a few Animal Crossing altars. You can also use The Sims, and Minecraft is a very good viable option. So that's very easy to pull off, and it's just in a sandbox game, so not many people are likely to find it, and even if they do, it's just in a game. But this is still a very viable option. You can leave offerings to your deities in the game. I've had questions like, how do your deities receive their offerings if it's in cyberspace? But it's much the same mechanic if you think about it, because obviously deities aren't physically receiving your offering in real life, so it's kind of the same in cyberspace, that they're just getting it through magic or spiritually or just intent and energy. So cyber altars work exactly the same way, they're just created in cyberspace. Now I'm going to move on to the second part of this video, which is things you can put on your altar. This advice is going to be based on a traditional Wiccan altar, but of course you don't have to follow any rules. This video is just a starting point to give you some ideas. Also, keep in mind that your altar does not have to be blatantly Wiccan or pagan. It's really easy to incorporate other movements and philosophies like Taoism, that's where we get our yin and yang, yoga philosophy, that's the chakra philosophy, meditation, Buddhism. I find that Christians tend to tolerate these sort of things much better than witchcraft. The first thing you'll probably want on your altar is a cloth. Now, this is definitely optional, as sometimes it can be the thing that kind of makes your altar look a bit too witchy, so you can go about if you want to. In terms of obtaining a cloth, you can easily get silk scarves or shawls from charity shops or thrift stores, or even vintage fairs. Those are really good ways of getting altar cloths, because they come in a big range of colours and patterns, and they are usually very cheap if you get them second hand. A good budget option is to use old clothing like skirts or old bed sheets or old curtains. These can easily be repurposed as an altar cloth. Using a towel is also a good option. Personally, I recommend using microfiber towels, you know, the sort of things that you use in sport or fitness. For a smaller altar, like a shoebox altar, I really recommend getting some felt sheets. These are easy to get from craft stores or Amazon. And a real budget option for a small altar is to use coloured paper. So this is a really easy way to incorporate different colour energy into your craft and your altar. Next, I'll talk about the elements. So for the earth element, you can use lots of different things. I'll just give you a list. You could use a house plant, a flower pot, a rock, globe, acorns, seeds, or a crystal. For the earth element, you can just use anything that is brown or green. For the air element, you can use incense, feather, a fan, a whistle, a wind instrument, fairy figurine, or a bird figurine. Just something that is pale yellow, pale blue, or pink. Just anything that gives you kind of air vibes. For fire, you can use anything forged from metal or glass. For example, coins, jewelry, or rings. You could also use a dragon or phoenix figurine. Just use anything that's red, yellow, orange. It gives you fiery vibes. For water, you could use a shell, that's a good one, a coral, snow globe, a bowl to represent a cauldron, or some sort of cup to represent a chalice. You could also use a small watering can for your plants, so if you're using a plant to represent the earth element, it would make sense to have a watering can nearby that can represent your water element. Just use anything that's blue or purple that gives you watery vibes. So the main thing to remember for representing your elements is to just use your intuition and use your own desire on the things that you want to use. You definitely don't have to stick to digitation. Just listen to your heart and pick up something and think about what you'd like to use it to represent. Let's move on to deity symbols. So I know not everyone works with deities in their craft, but again, this is just based on traditional Wiccan altars. So for the god symbol, you can use anything that's made out of gold or brass, or you could use an antler, figurine of a stag, a dog, a wolf, a shark, snake, eagle, or any animal that you associate with masculinity or with the god. You could also use anything that is long, like a rod or incense sticks or a knife. Just use anything that you associate with the sun or sky or the masculine counterpart of the deity that you prefer to work with. At the very least, you can use something that is gold, yellow, or orange. For the goddess symbol, you can use anything that is made out of pearl, silver, or emerald. So you could use a necklace, a mirror, flowers, a cup to represent a chalice, a bowl to represent a cauldron, a figurine of a rabbit, hare, owl, cat, dolphin, horse, spider, bee, or any animal that you associate with the goddess or feminine aspect of the deity that you work with. You can use anything that is round or contains something. This is sort of represents a womb. Use anything that you associate with the earth or the moon. And at the very least, use something that is silver, brown, or green. So again, the important thing to remember with this is to just use your intuition and don't question something if it speaks to you. So if you want to use just a random lady figurine for the goddess, then you certainly can. Okay, so on your altar you'll also want to have some magical items or tools, so I'll just go through a few examples of those that you can obtain quite subtly. So you can use crystals, houseplants. Houseplants are good because you can hide things in the soil and they can be used as excuses for other things. You can use water for your houseplants that you can actually use as moon water, so that's a good option. You can use decorative bottles, jars, or terrariums that have secret dual magical purposes. You can have a mini Zen garden, so that's to do with the Buddha philosophy that I was talking about earlier. You can also incorporate other religious symbols like a cross, which was originally a Celtic symbol, unalome, which is a Buddhist symbol, lotus flower, another Buddhist symbol, chakras, om, yin and yang, symbols like that. It's also a good idea to have artwork like pictures and paintings of nature or manifestations of the god and goddess. Another good one is a wish box, so this is just a decorative box that you can leave offerings or wishes in. A bell is another good one, So you can often buy antique ones in charity or thrift stores. A bowl or jar to put loose change in is another good one. This can be used to attract abundance, so it's a type of sympathetic magic, but to anyone else it just looks like that's where you put your loose change, so that's a good excuse. Finally, keys are very good to symbolize protection, security, things like that. Traditionally, skeleton keys are used, but I found that Santa keys are a good excuse for this sort of thing. You can normally buy quite pretty ones that hold a lot of nice magical energy, but if you wanted to, you could use your generic house keys and just leave them on your altar to represent protection or security. And this is just good because that can just be your designated place where you leave your house keys, and so you don't lose them. So that's a good excuse. Finally, the key to selling a disguised altar is to include mundane items that do not serve any magical purposes. So these are things like photos of family and friends. I suggest avoiding this on an ancestral shrine that is meant for the deceased. You can use souvenirs from holidays, postcards, shells, charms, things like that. Gifts from friends and family, like cards and letters. A jewelry stand or a display cabinet. Arts and crafts, things you've made yourself, crochet, knitting, clay, embroidery, things like that. Makeup palettes and perfume bottles, also good to have on your disguised altar. You can also cast glamours on them, so even though they're just used for makeup, they can actually be used for magical purposes. Art supplies is a good one. Paint brushes, paint palettes, easels, pens and pencils, they're good. Awards, trophies, certificates. Generic decor like plants, vases, books, Yankee candles, things like that. And then your random things like pop vinyl figures, Warhammer figures, CDs, DVDs, collectibles, anything to do with a hobby you might have. Include that on your altar so that it just looks like generic display unit that doesn't have any meaning. Like I said, using mundane items on your altar is a really good way to sell it as just a decorative thing that you're displaying items on. The mundane items really help to sell this. The last thing I want to talk about in this video is a bit of additional advice for setting up a disguised altar of any sort. A good one is to build up your altar slowly over time. This makes it a lot less suspicious because instead of just clearing a space and putting a whole ton of new stuff on it, build it up over a long period of time, because that just kind of gives the effect that it looks like your taste in like decor or whatever is kind of developing, changing over time. The next bit of advice I have is to be creative in your choices. Use your intuition and don't feel like you have to stick to tradition. If something speaks to you and you want to use it on your altar, then just do it. It's your altar, it's not anyone else's, so you don't have to worry about straying from tradition. The final point, which is rather important, is to not feel like you have to have an altar. So if it's really not an option for you and you can't find a way to have a disguised one, or you can't find a way to hide a temporary one, just don't worry about having to have one. Again, in my subtle practices video, I give a lot of examples of things you can do in the broom closet that do not require an altar whatsoever. Just have that in mind. You don't have to have one to be a witch. You're still a witch without one. Don't worry about it. So that was my video on how to set up a broom closet altar and what to put on your altar that doesn't look too witchy. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and please share this video so that I can help out as many broom closet witches as possible. Any links or resources that I have mentioned in this video can be found in the description. And also, if you'd like to know any more information on anything I've said in this video, please check out r/broomclosetwitch on Reddit It's got a huge wiki with lots of detailed information. So with that, I hope you guys have a great day, stay safe, and blessed be.